Feels like forever since we've done this.
It's been a month and a couple days, actually. So you're not wrong. It has been a while. Let's see. Am I getting anything here? No? Oh, maybe this is the problem. Oh, no. That sounds good.
I heard your voice.
You heard my voice and that was enough?
For me to immediately mute? Yep. Yep.
So you don't get the
Got all I
strange
needed.
echoes. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. That's why. There we go. All right, there we go. All right. I guess I could just go to... Yeah, all right. The stream is up and running. Why don't I put up the slides? I have the right date on there, right? Yeah. All right, we'll put the slides up there. And to be fair, while we haven't had meetings in a while, there hasn't been a lot of public stuff going on, so...
Which is why we were able to not have meetings.
Yeah, which is why it was a little less of an issue, not having meetings.
That's true.
In fact, even today, the issues we're talking about are all things that we've opened on the road to the end. All right. Hey, we have 4 concurrent bursts. That's pretty awesome. Love it. People are jumping in.
Rob, are you drumming in the background?
I got music going. Is there something else you hear?
Not anymore.
Okay. Hopefully chat hears the music and then the dulcet tones of my voice. Man, some of those S's.
I don't hear the music on the stream.
You don't? That's interesting. Oh, no, I guess it wouldn't right now. Yeah, okay, that kind of makes sense. Because I did that instead. Let's just change it real quick.
Famous last words. The screen is now black.
Yeah, there's music.
DMCA. No, I think you're confusing DCMA with oh, damn it. YMCA. Never mind. Almost. Nah, I wouldn't have. alert. I have been occupied with other things, so. But yeah, it's again, we knew what issues we had because we opened them. So, and also the fact that the meeting last week we almost held, it kind of sets up. I have this expectation, like, oh, okay, I have to make sure I'm fully online and whatnot, a little by a particular time, which isn't always the case. And then I'm mentally preparing myself to write the highlights. So I kind of went through that process last week because I postponed the meeting the day of. So in a way, it feels like we had a meeting last week. Exactly. Yep.
That. All right. 3, 2, 1. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is the WiX Online Meeting 244, our mid-October, getting close to the end of the year, definitely in the last quarter. All kinds of good stuff. I was saying before this meeting that this meeting is consequential. This is going to be a big meeting, I think, and we should get into it. As always, this meeting is recorded for those of you that are not with us right here, right now. So if you want to watch this very consequential meeting in the future, you can do so. Let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to talk about. If you're here, go ahead and say hi in the chat. It's always great to have you guys with us. What are we doing today? We are going to do triage. Triage is going to be a little bit weird today because all of the issues were opened by the three of us on this call. After that, we will talk about WiX 4 status, and then we'll take questions and comments like we always do. I think there's plenty of us for us to talk about, so let's go ahead and get into this. Bob, you ready for triage?
I am ready for triage.
All right, here we go. We have 7 open issues and 3 closed ones, which means we have 10 to get through, but you'll notice by the names here, they're all people here. So we'll start with the oldest, and Bob is assigned to you. You're up. 6350. Burn does not repair an MSI when slipstream with a minor update patch. Ron, great to see you. Bob?
Yeah, so sorry, I'm looking on the stream and I'm not seeing your browser.
Oh.
Am I the only one not seeing a browser?
Uh-oh. Triage didn't work. I don't know. That's interesting. Let's try that. There we go. Better? Yeah, there we go. There we go.
There we go. Not seeing it yet. Sorry. A little bit of a delay. All right. Yes, so I volunteered for some reason long ago to investigate this. And Sean was very helpful in providing logs and repros, and I summarized what I discovered and basically came to the conclusion that it would take an interesting amount of effort to have Burn understand how patched packages are affected by the minor upgrade version changes. It's possible, as I lay out, Windows Installer has this capability of looking at a patch and summarizing it. We call them patch XML blobs. I was originally under the assumption, and you know what they say about assumptions, that it was indeed a blob. It was supposed to be an opaque blob, but the schema is documented. So it's possible that Burn could, essentially take the patch XML that it has in the manifest, and I think relying on the sequencing that Burn does via MSI, obviously, for the patches to determine whether the bundled patch actually brings the MSI up to the level of the package on the machine. It's not a huge amount of work. I think there's a fair bit of uncertainty, certainly from my perspective, that we can actually rely on all of this data to cover, some of the weird states that you can get into with patching. My biggest fear was the combination of minor upgrade patches and hotfix patches. But for the purposes of determining the effective product version on the machine, I think we have all the data that we need. So I guess my suggestion here is that we should look at this, but it's not a trivial effort, and we should not attempt to do it in V4 and make it a V5 major feature kind of thing.
I don't
Well,
have strong feelings about this thing, so.
Yeah, all I did was ported the test that was in V3,
Mhm.
and we don't even really know which of these tests we're supposed to be passing.
Well,
So,
yeah. So, yeah, I spent some time looking at that under the assumption that the patch was the test was supposed to pass, and by spending time, I meant I went back to like WiX 3.6, the first version of Burn, to compare the behavior, and as far as I can tell, the behavior would be the same. In other words, we didn't in WiX 3.6 have this logic to look at the patch XML. So I kind of struggled to understand what was going on there. It's possible that this was a test that, well, one, that it was a test that never passed, It was, I don't know, an educational test rather than, functional. It's possible the behavior changed in other ways um, between the time the test was written and when 3.6 shipped. Um, a lot of those tests came actually during the development of Burn, which was originally slated for WiX 3.5. That was a time when we had some of the Visual Studio team more deeply integrated into the WiX team. So it's possible that this was a test that worked during that time period, and for whatever reason, the behavior changed before WiX 3.6 was released. And unfortunately, that time period was all inside Microsoft, so I don't have access to deeper spelunking tools. I do agree that the test probably ought to work. The functionality, if you have a patch in the bundle, Burn should be able to recognize that. I don't know how common it is in a real world scenario. Slipstreaming patches is obviously not typical. So I'm kind of not. I don't think this is a high priority issue or high priority feature because of just the very narrow real world use.
Okay.
So I do want to keep it open.
And
some
put it
people.
in the next, or
Yeah.
Okay.
It's definitely it's. I mean, this it would be a behavior breaking change, but otherwise, not a huge problem, and probably not, terribly disruptive. So, but it's a big enough thing, and as I think you're aware, sometimes you have to really kind of mentally work your way up to the idea of getting deep into patching.
Yes, patching is a different world. Okay, so into the future it goes.
Yep.
Okily dokily. Wix should provide a default feature. Bob, 6935.
Yeah. So this actually came up because of your other stream, and thinking about what Wix for templates might look like. One of the nice things we've done over the years is to reduce some boilerplate, and it occurred to me that we could do the same thing with the feature tree. Lots of packages have one feature, no conditions. It would be nice if Wix could supply that, and obviously continue to let you specify a feature tree if you actually need multiple nodes or whatever. It's a little complicated. I didn't mention in the bug. Actually, you brought it up that features are involved in advertisement, which most people don't care about.
Yeah, not
And Wix,
anymore.
it used to be a bigger deal. And MSI, unless you're using the raw COM tables, which Wix does not do by default,
Yeah, those two.
you mostly ignore it, except for advertised shortcuts, which are still a thing. And this feature would have to fit into the overall system, including all the rest of the advertisement stuff, but certainly advertised shortcuts. So there's a little bit of work to do there.
Yeah, so I still like the idea of this feature, but I think there's also other things we should default if we look holistically. And so I think this would be an interesting thing, especially as we consider the top level file, or file without a component, and those sorts of concepts. I think this would
Yep.
fit with those, which I think is a V5 thing.
Yeah, I agree.
We haven't got there yet, but that's certainly something I would like to see in 4, but we've already done enough in 4, so on to 5.
Yeah. No, this is not something I would propose to put in 4 at this point.
I think this needs a whip.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
So I think this is whip required. We toss it in V next and talk about it, or it's whip required or whatever, and review it in the larger going forward.
Yep.
GitHub is being responsive today. I'm seeing the changes on my screen. All right, UI compiler custom actions duplication. This was opened and a PR was sent by Stefan, which is very cool. And Sean brought up an issue with the implementation, which is also true. And so I thought we should talk about it.
Yep.
Sorry, this is 6937.
Yep. Your screen's updating now, so
All right, good.
I'm good. But, for accessibility, announcing the number is not a bad thing. Yeah, so, because of the platform-specific custom actions that we introduced in WiX 4, and the fact that the UI uses control events, the UI extension is now responsible for "quote unquote" authoring the custom actions when you use the WiX UI element. So the bug is, if you have more than one WiX UI element, you'll get multiple custom actions. So that's what this bug says, and what the PR fixes. Yay. Sean brings up the annoying point that only works as far as the compilation unit, basically. So yeah. I don't know how to cover all of these scenarios. I admit I have not given it a huge amount of thought. Having the compiler extension do the custom action definitions was my workaround for the custom action. The problem of having multiple custom actions by platform, but needing to handle the different custom actions with the same IDs, whereas normally we have distinct IDs by platform. That was my workaround. It's not a great workaround, it turns out. But I don't know. For me, this falls into the same category we've talked about in the past of WiX really should have some systems in place to handle multiple architectures and multiple languages and et cetera, et cetera.
So is this new behavior better than the previous behavior?
Previous being V3?
The original. No, in V4. So this fix made things slightly better.
Yes.
Or made it better in one case, but worse in another case.
No.
Okay, so it fixed one case, but there's still the problem with the other case.
Correct, yes.
So
let's say there are 2 bugs.
Yep.
At least 2 bugs. And this issue points out one of them, Sean points out the other. One of them is fixed, the other is not.
So let's get an issue tracking the other problem.
Yep.
Now, can we pre-triage that and say, do we need that in V4? Or is this scenario enough of an edge case that if you hit it, or is there a workaround?
Well, I mean, the workaround is to, reduce the number of times you use the WiX UI element. But
Could you get around it with a custom action ref? Like,
no,
you couldn't manually reference it.
no. The
Oh, it will be referenced to custom action. It doesn't exist. Yeah.
correct.
Yeah, I don't think we can fix this without the bigger system that allows an extension to do cool things with the architecture.
Yeah, that's my fear. Yeah, I gave it some thought when I originally did the work to, add all the platform-specific custom actions, but I didn't come up with, anything. I went down the path of, bind time variables and whatnot, and it didn't come up. This is essentially this is a problem. MSIs are platform-specific, and Windows installer is very happy with that model. WiX, and especially WiX libraries, are multiple support multiple platforms, so there's a clash here.
I mean, I did create that issue where it was asking for a feature where the UI extension can have the custom action ID that is not decorated, and then at some point during the process, it gets turned into an ID with a suffix for the architecture, and then that pulls in the correct custom action.
We know there's a bigger need here to solve this more generically. I'm trying to figure out right now, are we in an okay state and the workaround is for people to change their code in a way that's not unreasonable? Or are people going to try to use this in a reasonable WiX UI in a reasonable way and then find that they cannot get what they want done without a work, and no workaround will work for them?
The biggest problem that I see at the moment is that the converter, backing up, the biggest problem is you need the custom actions only when you're pulling in a reference to a dialog set. Problem is a lot of people like to customize their stuff, which we support, but one of the things, it's very typical that they pull in WixUI_common. And right now the converter is going to convert that to this WixUI element. It might be as simple as not doing that for that well-known ID, or conversely, doing it only for the well-known dialog set IDs. I'll open an issue and take a look at that.
Okay.
To answer your question, I think we're fine.
Sorry.
We're in an okay state, because we know that this might be an issue. We can document it. It'll be okay. And I think it's a fairly narrow edge case that we're going to have this kind of problem. Most people aren't going to run into this problem. Most people have, at most, they have their UI in, one fragment, or the references in one fragment. So it's fairly narrow scope with a reasonable workaround. So
that's what I was mostly
give it a score.
Right. If they can get out of it, then it's like, yeah, we know there's a problem.
Right,
Here's how you get out of it. And they're like, okay, fine. And they're out. Right. What I'm worried about is someone like, well, I did this and now I can't do anything. And we're like, oh yeah, you're trapped. That's the one I'm worried about.
I don't think we're boxing anyone in.
We may be forcing them to change their code, which is not as ideal, but
exactly,
it'll at least still work. And we need to look at that architecture thing. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So something kind of that. All right. Standardize Wix v4 on .NET 6. which is 6942. This came up in discussion on Wix Devs as we have some people trying to do ARM validation of the Wix toolset because ARM is becoming important for Microsoft. So Microsoft has have some people pushing, and Wix is important for that. So they've been doing that, and they point out that I did not realize that .NET Core 3.1 did not have full support for ARM, although it makes sense when you think about the time frame. And .NET Core 3.1 is out of service in 2 months and 10 days, something like that. And everything will work correctly in .NET 6. So all of that said, Wix v4 RTM is probably not, if it releases before the end of .NET Core, it's not for more than a few days, probably. So we probably should standardize on .NET 6 and not even mess with the whole .NET Core 3. Other thing I'm seeing is that it appears that the world is finally adopting .NET Core at version 6 more than I've seen on any version before. I've kind of wondered why it was quiet, and it just seems like everybody was, I don't know, not adopting .NET Core until 6. It seems like that's the one where people are starting to jump on board. So we'll do the same. I already made this change it and went through. I just wanted to talk about it here so that people knew that this kind of went through.
So there's another question
Uh-huh.
for the .NET Core BA, the host. Should we support .NET 3.1? Because I had to contribute a feature to .NET Core itself to make it work better.
For 3.1?
So 3.1 uses one code path and everything else uses a different code path.
Oh.
I'm shocked. Oh, wait.
That's harder because that's runtime behavior where someone else may choose .NET Core 3.1.
It's not
But
aggression. We didn't support it in v3.
That's true.
Now, the interesting part is that most of the UI frameworks were added in .NET 5.
Right. WinForms and WPF.
Yeah. So .NET Core 3 was really not a likely target anyway. And 5 wasn't a long-term servicing, so that wasn't going to get big adoption. So 6 is the place where people, and maybe that's why people are finally looking at 6. It has a UI framework. Or maybe it was just time. It's going to be out of LTS. If we don't support it, people are going to have a real hard time saying that we should. And if it cuts the code paths down in the testing, it's probably worth it. I mean, that was part of when I said, for me and Wix, I'm like, yeah, let's just not support .NET Core 3 because it doesn't bring anything to the table for the build tool side of it. So I was like, that was easy. It's going to be out of service. People shouldn't use it. Why should we in the first version support it? I mean, I know you did work to get it in there, but if it cuts us having to worry about it, it might be worth it for that reason.
Yeah, I mean, like, the thing is your change got rid of the test that was testing.
Because I did just do a massive sweep of everything. And not realizing there was a difference on that one.
Yeah, so there's like an example project, like earliest core MBA or whatever. That was supposed to be representing the earliest target that we want to support.
Irregardless of that, I think it's probably,
which is now 6, right?
Yeah, I mean, if it deletes code, it's probably worth it.
I'd much rather not ship it, days before 3.1 goes out of release than have to deal with a deprecation and obsolescence plan.
And just any of the bugs that come around it. And like, not even if it's in there, it's like around it, you have to deal with it. You're like, and who uses this? Nobody should. So yeah, let's not start with it. Makes sense to me.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. Wix version to new Wix toolset versioning. This is a thing that starts itching in the back of my brain for a while as I saw the strings moving around in bundles, and I realized that more and more it was possible that bundles would get the new Wix versions. And I was like, oh, if you're managed, you'll have to parse that string yourself if you wanted. And then if you wanted a managed version, you'd have to take Wix toolset.data, which has tons of build goo in it. And it's a very large assembly because it has lots and lots of data in it because it's the data assembly for the build system. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do the work, pull it out into a separate assembly so people could reuse it, and finish the implementation with all the compare work to make it useful in bundles and bring all the tests over. So I was just like, this is a good thing. And I saw that NuGet has the same thing in their world. They have a NuGet.versioning, which has essentially just their versioning thing in it. So I'm like, you know what? I think this is probably the way that we should mimic it. So did that. So now that you can just access the Wix toolset version by taking one reference to this assembly, and things work without having to take lots of other goo. So you could parse a string of whatever bundle version support, and your bundle can do the right thing too. So anyway, I debated this when I first wrote Wix version in Wix toolset.data. I sat there for a while going, where should I put this? So finally got to the motivation to push it into its own assembly. All right. Now I think we get to my yellow stickies. No, Bob has one here at the end. But these were the things that, as I was doing patching, I had a backlog of things that I was just writing down, making sure I wouldn't forget in scribbles. And then I finally sat down and opened a bunch of these. So 6944. I'm looking for people's opinions on this. Use Wix extension 4 instead of tools as the root folder in the extension NuGet packages. So today, the extension NuGet packages use the tools folder because I've treated that in the past as a dumping ground for all things that aren't assembly library references. Because if you're the libs folder, you get all kinds of extra behavior. And if you're a content folder, you just get copied into project. Neither of that is the behavior we want for extensions. So everything else has just gotten to tools. Even though tools really is about tools that can run, like Wix.exe itself is a tool that you can run. And so the more I kind of looked at it, the less confident I came that using tools was a good idea. And so then I was like, hey, what if we just create Wix extension 4 inside the NuGet package instead? And because we know our assemblies are going to be targeted, then we can have a NuGet package that targets Wix toolset 4. And then when Wix toolset 5 comes out, any breaking changes that could look in another folder. So that was my thinking, but I wanted to run it by here to see if people had a better idea or if they knew that I'm wrong and tools should be used as the catch-all, or any other opinions about this.
Sounds good. Do we need to add something so that the extension can actually detect whether the project is 4 or 5?
The extension can detect there already is the version in the Wix target, so an extension can, as part of its targets file, tell which version of Wix it's running against. I've added that to the Wix prop, so that's about the only thing you'll get there. Otherwise, Wix itself will look in the appropriate numbered folder. So I think that gets both directions. One, Wix will look into the NuGet package in the appropriate number, and if an extension has its props files, it will be able to use the version of the Wix props file to point it to the correct version inside itself.
Okay.
And if that's not good enough, this will flush out that, and I will make sure that the version number is good enough in the props file. Like if it's not early enough or something, I'll finagle it to make sure it's in the right place at time to make that work. But I think this is assigned to me. I was waiting for this meeting to make sure that this wasn't a terrible, horrible, bad idea. But I'll go through and update all the extensions to conform to this and the extension manager to respect them. And then I think we'll be in a better place than using tools folder. So there's that. Thank you for moving triage, Bob. All right, moving on. These are really small things that I have been hanging around that have been bugging me. I don't know if we need to go into them deeply, but 6945, we have this hangover stuff for extension directory and reference paths, which were mirrored kind of, sort of, after libpath from C++. And given that extensions now come from NuGet packages or from the tools, extension command, the WiX extensions command line option, these don't make a lot of sense anymore, and they end up doing a lot of path searching when resolving paths that just, none of it makes any sense. So I'm looking at removing this. That's actually what I'm doing right now. I'm looking at removing both of these properties because they're nonsensical in the world of WiX 4. They made more sense when we happened to install all of our extensions in one directory. Then it was like, yeah, just add that directory to your search path and you're off to the races. So kind of hangovers from WiX 3 that I've had in there. And this one I tripped across when I was doing something in the targets, I think when I was fixing the compile or making the validation not run every build, or when the build was up to date, when the compile was up to date, when the build was up to date, not running validation. Anyway, that issue. The the C# targets, which is what we want to model more, when they resolve references, return only the resolve references, the ones that they can find on disk, and then they put the other ones in a different list, and they pass only the resolved ones to the tool set. And the net result is that you can successfully build even if it can't find assemblies that you referenced if you didn't use those assemblies. And I was like, okay, I understand that behavior better now, having gone through their code. So this is about doing the same thing as they do to make sure that our resolve paths follow similar paths to them. And WiX will already do the right thing in the end. In fact, you'll probably get better error messages when you can't find the extensions. It'll say, hey, you need these. So that's what 6946 is about. Anyway, MS Build stuff that I was in. All right. Reevaluate the use of compare string local invariant with compare string ordinal in 6947. I didn't know compare string ordinal existed, but a lot of that was because it was introduced in, I think, Vista. Yeah, in Vista. And a lot of my C++ had been focused on only things supported by XPSP2 for so long. And now that it's XPSP2 is well far in the rearview mirror, it's like, we can standardize on Win7 APIs. And I hit this problem comparing strings between the way C# compared them and the way that compare string local invariant compared them was different. When I was comparing, the version strings. Anyway, the net is that compare string ordinal is the recommended way to do comparisons for file names, environment variables, and names and mutexes, and basically all the things that we care about where we do local invariant, including XML names, I think. And so I think we should consider switching from compare string local invariant to compare string ordinal. I don't think we need to take this in 4, but I wanted to put this issue out there as a thing to do later, like when we have more time to know that it will not break anything else. But this was interesting bug I tripped across because of this, so I wanted to capture it. So I'd like to propose we put this in V next as a big dutil sweep. Maybe burn too. I don't know if burn has these too. It might.
It does, and part of me is wondering if we should, in addition to doing this, or as part of doing this, we should, add something to sturutil to use as our, kind of go-to string compare. Because right now the compare string calls, we have a mix of compare string and compare string EX, and especially the EX version has, I think, 82 arguments. It's big and wieldy, and I'm wondering if we can, introduce a couple of sturutil functions that will hide this particular change.
Could do. I didn't go that far into it. But anyway.
Yeah, I'm fine with this change. We probably have avoided, Vista Plus stuff for quite a while.
Yeah, it's at least Win 7. There's lots of good stuff in Win 7 that we can use now.
Yeah. Well, Vista was
I thought we were still targeting Vista.
Are we targeting Vista? I thought Vista was long gone and Win 7 was the baseline.
I think Vista was going to end on the extended support at the same time Windows 7 was.
Oh, okay. Well, this is in Vista too, so. All right. Yeah. Win 7 and Vista end at the same time. I haven't looked. I wonder what Win 7 adoption is still these days.
Well, the extended support ends in January.
So. For Vista or for both?
I have not looked at Vista because I also assumed it was long gone. But Win 7, the last of the extended support programs that you can pay for, end in January, mid-January, I think.
Interesting. All right. Well, this is still a good thing, and I'm pretty sure this API is in Win 10.
I believe that 8.1 also ends in 2023 in January.
Yeah, they threw 8.1 under the bus pretty hard. So.
Yeah, and then Windows 10 survives another 2 years. So.
Right. All right. Heat directory v4 task fails. Open by Bob assigned to me. I am working on this fix now. This is 6951. It works when you use the targets file. It does not work when you bypass the targets file and go straight into the task. So I have added a test for that, and I have a fix for that on my machine locally that I am rolling in with my other MS build fixes these things up here. So that will be coming soon. I guess I should be prepared that when we open all the issues, we're probably going to have to talk about them a little bit longer, right?
Probably fair.
Although some of mine went easier, but not all of them. All right. Everything's assigned and off to the races. I'm going to hit a 5 real quick. I assume that's off to vNext. Yep. That's done. And then that's off to vNext. So why is this still showing? Oh, it's showing up because it says triage on it. Got it. Burn does not repair MSI. Slipstream could be not triage, I think. All right. Great. All right. Let's move on. If you've been in the meeting all this way, thank you. We're now getting to the important part. We're now going to talk about WiX v4 status. And the status is that WiX v4 preview 1 is close, very close. We're down to like 23 bugs, which sounds like a lot, but again, I have half of them. And I have a fix for half of those coming pretty quickly. So we're going to drop down to single digits quickly is my expectation, which means it's time to start thinking for reals about WiX 4 Preview 1 being done. And since I finished patching and got some headspace back, I've been thinking about it. And Sean, Bob, and I talked about it a little bit. And we're pretty much on target for saying that, yeah, we're going to use Halloween. We're targeting Halloween for WiX 4 Preview 1. We're sticking to our usual fun pattern of releasing on holidays, all that kind of good stuff. But we're going to try to have WiX 4 Preview 1 on NuGet by Halloween, on Halloween. So you will be able to do all those things that I did, like in Deployment Dojo, and download it without all the funky personal access token stuff. You'll just be able to say, NuGet tool install wix.exe, and you'll get the MS build behavior, all those things, all of it there will be there Halloween. So what does that mean for the release plan for v4? Now, Halloween is our line in the sand. I'm pretty confident we can get there. I have to do a lot of the work to get there. We have a bunch of things to do on the website, stuff like that, but my confidence is high that we will get there, which means that if we release Preview 1 on Halloween, last day of October is really what that says, that we then switch into a mode where we start fixing reported bugs. So November, December, whatever, as people hopefully start picking up WiX 4 Preview 1, the bugs come in and we look for help and we try to get them fixed. If necessary, AKA, if we get a lot of bugs or we get a bug or something that we're like, we really need to get people to try this and make sure that it will behave correctly, some particular bug fix that's scary, we may release a preview 2. That essentially is a way of saying, hey, we fixed an important bug in preview 1 and we need to retest this again to make sure that that fix for that bug didn't destabilize things in a worse way. That would be preview 2. And then we'll fix more bugs. If no bugs are reported, then we're done with fixing reported bugs. As bugs are reported, we try to stay on top of those. We look for help. We get tests. We try to fix all those. When there are no bugs to be fixed that we care about, then we release WiX 4. So, as I call out here, the timing to release WiX 4 is 100% based on what the bugs look like that get reported in V4. I wish I could say that I'm confident that there will be no bugs and that everything's just going to work. It's not. That's not what's going to happen. There will be things found. I'm hoping to have time. I'm going to go write more unit tests to try to expose more places. Especially, I want to go write a few more patching things to see if I can try to flesh out stuff in patching. But it does mean that if you're using WiX, Preview 1 is very important for you to pick up and start trying to use it. That doesn't mean you can go production. I know a lot of people will be upset about that. Well, if I can't use it in production, I'm not going to waste my time on it. You still need to, because we need to know, we need help flushing out all the space and all the bugs. When we find that there are no more bugs that we're interested in fixing for V4, aka we're punting them to the next release because they're not bad enough, similar to that conversation we had today about the WiX UI one. Yeah, it's not great behavior, but it's not terrible, and we'll take the fix in the next release. We will have those conversations about all of these things, all these bugs being triaged. When we get to the point where all the bugs are falling into that bucket of, yeah, we'll just do it in the next release, we're done and WiX 4 is out. So if there's no bugs and everybody's like, yeah, this thing worked perfectly first time, preview 1, we'll just do another build and put it up as RTM and declare victory. I'm not talking about WiX 5 yet. This is what we're going to do because I'm pretty confident we're going to get some bugs. So if I didn't make it clear, when preview 1 comes out, we think at the end of this month, we need people to jump on it. And I'm looking at ways to go make that message very, very clear. But this is the first time you're hearing it. We're targeting October. You should be thinking, how, I know the holidays are coming up. You should be thinking, how do I in November get my code base running on WiX 4 Preview 1 to validate that it works? That's what you should be thinking about. Because if you don't get your bug reported and we ship WiX 4 without it, then you can wait till WiX 5 for your bug fix to get released. It's going to be something like that, right? So that's what you need to be thinking as a user of WiX right now. If I'm using 3, I need to get onto 4 Preview 1 at the very beginning of November. And any issues I find, I need to make sure I get them reported and maybe even come help us fix them if you can. And we will be racing towards the end of V4. It is pretty simple in that way. That's your responsibility out there as a user. You get to come and help us validate the enormous, well, not quite 500,000 line code base of the WiX tool set. Questions, comments, things people want to talk about? WiX 4 is coming very, very quickly. It's finally happened. The big rocks are gone. These little ones are going to be taken care of. Halloween will be a day. November, you can think of it this way. If you're a WiX user, you're going to be busy in November. We're probably going to end up busy in November because people probably find bugs. But that's what we need to be doing.
So I looked it up, and the Vista is actually out, but it's Server 2008 that will
Server
end.
2008. It would be Server that would get us, wouldn't it?
And then it's the server OSs that are gonna, like, Server 2012. They're showing like extended support to 2026.
Whew. All right. So that's Windows 7-ish things. Okay.
But like 2012 is Windows 8, so.
Oh, that was Windows 8 even.
Yeah.
All right. All right, filling a little more space here as people think about the questions they want to ask, and stuff like that. We'll probably be back in 2 weeks. I expect us to be back in 2 weeks. That's perfect because in 2 weeks is the 27th, which is 4 days before Halloween, which is 4 days, hopefully, before the release of WiX 4. And during that triage, we should be talking about the process we have, the steps we have left to release preview 1, like website, binaries being built and uploaded, those kinds of things, that kind of stuff, and triaging things into vNext or beyond, nothing into preview 1, essentially. And our preview 1 bug list should be empty by the 27th. So that date works out really, really well for us as a schedule. It's kind of our last checkpoint in before the release of preview 1. And if we're not making it, then that'll be the date where we're like, all right, we're not going to quite make this because this particular bug or something took us longer to get done. So we're going to slip it to November 4th or something like that. But I don't want to go very far. It's time V4 is being done. So the 27th, right here, this same channel, this same time, we will be talking about hopefully the release of WiX 4 Preview 1 on Halloween so that all of you can wake up from your sugar-induced coma and go from there. Ron, what's the status of your pull request? That's a great question. I sent you a mail. I will be pulling. I am deep in my MS build stuff, which makes it hard for me to switch out to the PRs a lot of times. I will get to your PRs and then jump back in. And actually, that's another point. Thank you for mentioning that. I'm confident that we will get your pull requests in this amount of time. Not a problem. Jacob and Blair have issues. Why don't I jump over there real quick? Here's the list of all issues open in V4 right now. You'll notice most of them have my smiling face on them, but Jacob has this thing here, allow access persistent variables, and Blair has this BA request gets dropped when UI engine shown on UI engine thread. We need to get these done and in and going, and we'll follow up with these guys. These are the Microsoft guys that are helping. And this blank one's a documentation, which we can do in time because that'll all be web stuff now. We no longer need all the great huge amounts of build stuff to make those work. So everything else is assigned to me, but like I said, I'm going to be taking out a lot of these issues. We're going to drop rapidly. So if you have an issue that you want in, you need to get it in like now, like this week, next week, not the 24th, not the week of the 24th. Do not be trying to get a PR in there because I know I'll be busy trying to mostly do hopefully web goo and release goo at that point, not thinking about code bug fixes. It'll be making sure that all the stuff is ready for the website. So if you have an issue, it's time to get your PR pushed all the way through. Ron, thank you for staying on top of yours. You've done a fantastic job of that, and we are going to get your fixes in. Yours, this 5731, and also currently assigned to me is 6847. If you could leave a comment on 6847, Ron, I will assign this to you so that you will get the full credit for fixing it. I don't know how deeply people care about that, but if you do, then you can have the assignment and all that good stuff. So I am talking excitedly because I am excited, and I'm trying to be very, very clear. We're getting done. And I know that 23 looks like a lot, but I opened most of the issues against myself, which means I know how to get through them. It's not like patching where it took me, what was it in the end, Bob? 6 weeks? I lost track. 4 weeks? 5 weeks? 6 weeks? Multiple weeks.
I prefer my original estimate that it was 3 weeks.
It wasn't 3 weeks.
But it was less than the 3 months you said. So.
It was less than 3 months. So in that way, it went very well. So yeah, we're getting done. And another thing for those of you that are here that watch this later, you're going to start seeing messaging coming from us soon, like very soon, from WiX and me and Firegiant will be pushing it too as well, about WiX 4 Preview 1 coming out and the release plan after that, and trying to make it crystal clear that people need to use Preview 1 to help us validate it, because if they don't get their bugs fixed in Preview 1, they get to wait until the next major release, probably. It's just, that's probably the way it's going to work. So you need to get in now, validate now, or forever hold your peace, or whatever that line is. So we're going to be pushing that message. If you can help push that message to other people, we'd appreciate it. Let them know that they need to get on WiX 4 Preview 1 and validate it. That's going to be the big push. As soon as I get a few more of these bugs out of my brain and get Ron's PRs resolved, that's going to be one of the big things, is getting that message out there.
So if that's the plan, should we call it RC1? People aren't really going to want to use a preview.
Yeah, I guess. .NET uses just previews.
No.
Oh, they have
RC.
RCs?
Yeah. .NET
But
7 RC1 or RC2 just came out.
Yeah,
Really?
but RCs for .NET are
Oh.
production supported.
Well, yeah, so that's the challenge. We're not quite production supported, but yeah.
On the other hand, what does production supported mean for an open source project?
It means that, yeah, I mean, it means that we don't think we're going to break anything more after this. RC1.
Right, but the point is that we would still fix bugs that people find.
Yeah, that's the difference.
That's what production supported means for an open source project.
I don't know how I got in my head that .NET had just switched to previews and no longer did RCs at all.
Well, they were doing, they did preview 7, I think, and then
Yeah.
it was RC time. So
if
you're going to have a lot of previews, numbering them like that might make sense. And plus, they were doing, I think, every month, every couple of weeks, they would do a new preview.
Every month.
Okay, yeah. Timing it for Patch Tuesday.
Of course.
Well, you're already updating and you might have to reboot. Perfect time to ship an update.
I'm going to think about that. We may call it RC. And it won't really matter because we haven't put the label on there yet anyway. So, but yeah, I will definitely think about that in the next couple days. It's a good point. I have to go look at the .NET RC line and see if we can adopt that. Yeah. But yeah, it's essentially where we're at, which is a good place to be. It's what people have been asking us to do for a very long time. So,
yeah,
we'll be back in 2 weeks. We're finishing, hopefully in 2 weeks. The only bugs we have left, we will have a few bugs. By the way, if you're looking at like the bug count, there's going to be a few bugs that will get moved to like an RTM group or whatever. I haven't quite decided how to label that one yet. But there will be some things that get moved to an RTM group because there are things that we have to do after the release, usually tied to the release being done and then the website being updated. And so we're tracking those. So we won't get to 0 for preview 1 because some of them will actually be, some of the V4 issues will be in RTM stuff. But if you have an issue open, you probably don't have one of those because they're almost all maintainer maintenance type things. So get your PRs in, get your bugs reported, and we will go from there. So 2 weeks from now, should be hopefully a very exciting time. Should be like, yeah, we're getting this thing out. Woohoo! Like the pre-party. That's what I'm hoping. With still a lot of work left to do to actually push the bits up into NuGet.org. But that's where we should be going. 2 weeks from now, that would be October 27th. Think Halloween, think November. WiX 4 is on its way. Until then, all you guys have a good one. We'll see you then. Bye.
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 Boom. All right. So thanks for hanging out with us in chat, guys. Good stuff. And Jacob, get your PR done. I didn't see Blair today, so we might have to poke Blair. about his issue or whatnot. All right. If you guys want anything, we'll see you in 2 weeks. So then do it all again. Adios.
Bye.
Bye.